Hi everyone. I just thought I would read my latest blog entry because, quite frankly, I'm pretty fed up with the way people are treating each other. And I thought, what the hell? I got nothing to lose by voicing my opinion. So here goes. I grew up in a small, incredibly conservative community with a very heavy, self-righteous religious influence. At an age I was able to start thinking for myself, I started expressing myself in a style that was not acceptable to the majority of the people I interacted with daily. I love heavy metal, can't stand country music, and swear words are part of this innocent-looking, fragile creature's everyday vernacular. I believe love is love regardless of how one identifies sexually, and I want nothing to do with people who believe race has anything to do with the way a person deserves to be treated. I know very well what it feels like to be judged harshly. My hair has been some combination of purple, pink, and blue since 1992, and back then you would have thought I was a child molester by the way I was treated for it. I speak my mind often, and I hold back very little, if at all. I was often silenced growing up because my values did not match the values of the leaders of said community. My opinions to this day are not popular or well received outside of the community I now rarely step out of. It wasn't until I entered my 40s that I finally started feeling comfortable with who I am, despite how little I fit in with the community that still, in the year 2020, lets me know with passive aggression and behind the back meanness that the way I live my life is not up to their unrealistic standards of conformity. I also know all too well what it is like to feel so ostracized that it feels like the only option is to try to fit in with that type of mentality. Being an outcast can be very lonely, and for many years, I went back and forth between being myself and trying desperately to conform to the expectations of a nasty society that I never wanted to be a part of in the first place. It often felt like my only choices were to conform and become a hateful, mean, bigoted waste of life human, or suffer in solitude because I knew so very few people at that time who truly knew the meaning of the word love. Many times in my efforts to fit in, I became the epitome of what I now detest. I joined in on conversations about how sick people must be to have sexual relations with anyone other than the opposite sex. I instigated hate toward races that were not my own because I was taught that that was how to fit in. I considered poor people to be lazy without knowing anything about the person other than they made less money than the leaders of the hate cults I thought I needed the approval of. I considered Muslims, Mormons, and even Buddhists to be evil just because I was told to by the leaders of these cult communities. I made fun of everyone who wasn't conforming to the ridiculous standards being forced on me because that was what everybody else did. I was an absolute piece of shit human being that did not deserve to breathe the same oxygen as the people who weren't under the wretched spell of hate. The reasons I made yoga my life and career are endless, but the desire to no longer be a horrible human being was and remains one of the main ones for me. It is a daily practice. My heart is full at this point in my life because as I have gotten older and started feeling more secure with myself, I have worked hard to surround myself with people who choose love over hate. I haven't felt the desire to fit in with any hate groups in a very long time, and it feels fucking amazing. I highly recommend it. I wish the same for everyone else who is fueled by fear right now. That you are someday able to find enough peace with yourself to start treating everyone the way you want to be treated. Of course, this doesn't also mean that if you are being mistreated, you should just sit back and take it. Part of self-love is learning to stand up for yourself or walk away when necessary. Now here we are in the time of COVID-19. Some rare folks have done an amazing job staying kind to others, but most of what I have witnessed has been absolutely appalling. People are letting fear control their every move. People who were once friends are turning against each other because of face masks. Fucking face masks. People are afraid to look each other in the eye in public. Social media has exploded with status updates proclaiming that strangers are looking at them funny for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. Let me repeat that. Strangers are looking at me funny because I am or am not wearing a face mask. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds? I personally have an intense natural stare. Some, including myself, call it resting bitch face. I am always thinking, planning, problem solving. And I'm sure that in the last 2 months, my resting bitch face has started to look more like a homicidal meth addict face because of all the problem solving I am having to do hourly as a business owner. If I look at a stranger with my resting bitch face, if that stranger is feeling insecure, he or she will most likely think I am glaring at them and thinking nasty thoughts. This doesn't bother me because I know that how other people think or feel is none of my business, and I have no control over those thoughts or feelings. Observing the face of a stranger and assuming that stranger's thoughts have anything to do with you is the essence of self-centeredness. The majority of the world's population is miserable right now. Is it logical to expect that people will be walking around with a twinkle in their eye and raised corners of the mouth? Hell no. And chances are that stranger looks miserable when you make eye contact because he or she is also near the end of their rope with hope. Hatred does not instill hope, people. I promise I don't hate you if I look at you with my perma, how the fuck are we going to get through this face? Instead of jumping to more hateful conclusions, have you tried smiling at the strangers you assume are judging you based on a crease between the eyebrows? What have you done to try to minimize the suffering of others? Have you met a stranger's suffering with love and compassion? Or have you taken it upon yourself to spread more hate because you are afraid? Love is losing the war against fear right now, and it's tragic. Instead of pausing to receive opinions with an open mind and objectivism, people are reacting with knee-jerk belittling and condescension. Many people are only able to eat and keep a roof over their heads right now with unemployment, if they're lucky enough to have received any yet. And now groups of people are proudly proclaiming that those people would rather sit on their butts and collect from the government than get a job. Newsflash, people, there aren't anywhere near enough jobs to employ every person in America right now. Would you prefer to see more people living on the streets and begging for change? It's time we all pull up our adult panties and really truly start concentrating on the fact that we are all one. We are all part of the same collective consciousness. If one person is homeless, sick, and starving, the entire human consciousness is homeless, sick, and starving. If you hate someone based on whether they are wearing a face mask or not, you are hating yourself. Love is what this planet needs to recover. If you struggle with self-love, start there. Learn to love yourself again so you can love others. Stop acting out in ways that you know deep down in your heart and soul are not right. We all have the innate ability to listen to that inner voice that tells us when we are acting like children who need their babas. If you can't hear that voice, work diligently to silence whatever noise is blocking it. When you find yourself getting angry or annoyed with someone, ask yourself what it is about yourself that person is holding a mirror up to. The way you treat people is a direct reflection of the way you feel about yourself. The world needs yoga now more than ever. Humanity needs ahimsa, or non-harming, non-violence, to slap it in the face so hard that it leaves a welt. And yes, that was an intentional pun. The economy needs us to practice aparigraha, or non-hoarding, and asteya, or non-stealing now. If you can afford to throw a few bucks at businesses providing free services for those who truly can't afford it, throw them a few bucks, for crying out loud. Of course, most of us need to watch our budgets right now, but there is a huge difference between watching our spending and straight up abusing the kindness of others. And every action has a consequence. Whether you practice yoga or not, if you are alive in the 21st century, you are familiar with the misused and often misunderstood word karma. If you don't already practice saucha, or cleanliness, now is the time to develop a self-care routine to boost your immune system. The state of Wisconsin may be open now, but if I was a gambling woman, I would bet every penny I have that this virus isn't going away anytime soon, regardless of how many of our freedoms are taken away. We will all need a strong immunity when the inevitable happens. You can practice brahmacharya, or energy conservation, by pausing to think before reacting. Exploding with anger and resentment is a huge waste of valuable energy and weakens the immune system, if you didn't already know that. Santosha, or contentment, can feel like one of the most difficult aspects of yoga to practice or even feel connected to right now, but it is possible. At this moment, do you have food in your kitchen? Do you have a roof over your head? Are you and your loved ones safe and healthy? What is it about this exact moment in your life that is okay? There will always be something. Contentment is not the same as happiness. It is being able to sit with whatever is going on and not let your peace be disturbed. Yes, it sounds difficult, maybe even impossible, but I guarantee that if you sat down with pen and paper right now, you could come up with your own gratitude list, and that's a good place to start. Practice tapas or discipline in whatever capacity is manageable for you right now. Have you fallen off of your yoga practice? Schedule a time for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes, to just sit and breathe. Close your eyes and simply follow the movement of your breath. Anyone can do that. Consider disciplining yourself to pause when agitated. Pause before reacting. Pause before doing or saying something you will later have to apologize for. It is not as hard to practice tapas as you might think. Take the time to observe yourself, svadhyaya, from the outside. Study the way you respond to these incredibly challenging times. Observation is key to gaining greater awareness. And the more aware you become of your own behaviors, the sooner you can work to fix the ones that aren't serving you or the greater good. And finally, surrender, Ishvari Pranadhana, to what you have no control over. So much of what is going on is out of our control, and when we finally stop trying to fight battles we could never win, we open ourselves up to receive the gifts that the universe has in store for us, whether we see them as gifts at this time or not. We can get through this. We can be a society that coexists with each other with little to no hate. We have a very, 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 very long way to go to get there, but the journey begins with you and me. By now, you have probably heard the phrase, be the change you want to see in the world. I hear it so often that it sometimes makes me roll my eyes, but as cheesy as the saying might be, it has never been more relevant to the times than it is right now. I need all of you to inspire me to be a better person, because human nature is not always positive, nor is it kind. Please, friends, join me in the crusade to be less and less of a piece of shit. Join me in being part of the love solution, not part of the hate problem.